Hello, my dear friends. My name is Marty, and I have rheumatoid arthritis. I was diagnosed in the spring of 1987, 2 weeks after my second child was born. The doctor that I went to sent me to a rheumatologist, and I got an appointment quite quickly with her. When I went in, I had my 2-week-old baby with me. I could barely move. It was like I had been hit by a truck. I was in so much pain and such a huge flare. She looked at me and said, "You are obese." I had post-baby weight, post-pregnancy weight. I wasn't fat. I wasn't obese. And then she told me that I needed to stop nursing my baby. That wasn't something I was willing to do. So she said, "Don't come back until you've lost 30 pounds and you've finished nursing that child." That's how she put it. I never went back. 8 months later, we had moved to a new town. I had a new doctor, and he was recommending a rheumatologist for me. The man that he recommended, he said, was a genius, top of his field. The only thing about it was he had zero bedside manner. And if I could get over the fact that he had that little quirk, I was going to be well taken care of. Well, I went to the new doctor, and he had a routine. Each time you went in, he would squeeze each one of your joints and your fingers 3 times, move all your larger joints, your wrists, your elbows, feel your armpits, move your knees, move your ankles, and then squeeze each joint in your toes 3 times. That was his routine. He also would stop and stare at you for 3 seconds. And then he would silently shake your hand and slip away. I learned later that the stare meant, "Do you have a question?" That's what he did. So, my first visit to this doctor, and I'm going to call him Dr. Sheldon because he's just like Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. So the first visit I had with Dr. Sheldon, he did his routine. He jotted down some things for himself, for, notes, and then he handed me 2 prescriptions. The first one he said, "Here, this is prednisone. It will make you hungry." And then, "Here, this is an anti-inflammatory. It will hurt your stomach. It will upset your stomach." Stared at me for 3 seconds, gently shook my hand, and slipped away. It was so weird. Well, the nurse came in, and she was a sweet Southern lady, and she goes, "Oh, don't mind Dr. Sheldon. He's an angel in disguise. Just think of him as shy." Well, I don't think it was shyness. It was something. But it helped. I would think of him as shy, and it really helped a lot because I could get over that to have a great doctor. She also said, "This prednisone is going to make you ravenously hungry. Drink a big old glass of water before you eat anything, and you won't pack on the pounds." And then she said, "This anti-inflammatory may hurt your stomach, but do the cracker trick. Make a sandwich. Eat a cracker, take the pill, and then eat another cracker. That should protect your stomach, and you'll be just fine." And I was. So I just kept going to Dr. Sheldon, the strange man that he was. He did some really nice things. He had a phlebotomist in his office, and I once asked him, because that wasn't a normal thing to have a blood clinic in your office, and his nurse had told me it was a financial loss to have it, but he told me, and I asked him why, and he said, "I don't want my patients to mix with those germy people in those clinics." So in his odd little way, he was showing how much he cared for us, and I really appreciated that. So I got a pamphlet on my first visit. I'm popping back and forth, sorry. I got a pamphlet on my first visit, and it was written by the Arthritis Foundation. And it said something like, "This is not your grandma's arthritis. It's an autoimmune disease," and it explained how autoimmune diseases work. It said that my body was attacking itself, the good tissue, and that I would get bone damage and joint deformities. That's pretty much all it said. So I left. I just made a commitment after that, in that first appointment, to not let my what is it? Misfortunes, not to let my misfortunes define who I was. So I stood up tall, hobbled out of there, and left. And what did a person do in 1987 or 1988 to get more information? We didn't have computers. Nobody had computers in their house. Well, maybe some people, but most people didn't. There was no World Wide Web. The internet was for the government and I think scientists. It wasn't made public yet. And there was just no Google. There was no way to get information except for the library. So I went to the library. I found a few books that had a couple of sentences or a paragraph or two about rheumatoid arthritis that pretty much reiterated what the Arthritis Foundation brochure had said. And then they had worst case scenario pictures of terribly mangled, pitiful, crippled hands and horrible looking x-rays of folded over fingers. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's just awful. But there was nothing else, and you just had to be satisfied with what you got. The librarian suggested I look at their encyclopedias, but I remembered encyclopedias from when I was a child. My parents had bought a 1960s issue, which was the newest ones, when I was in elementary school. And I remember being, 10 or 11 and looking at it, and it said, "One day man will fly to the moon." Well, at that time, Neil Armstrong in 1969 had already flown to the moon. Yeah, I was 12. So Neil Armstrong had already done his moon landing. So I looked at an encyclopedia like an outdated computer program. You just didn't want to access it because it's not going to give you any new information. And there really wasn't any new information. I recently found online an article written by a medical journal called The Lancet, and it was written in 1987, the year that I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And the Lancet article was about a 20-year research of 112 patients with RA. They were taking the latest treatments and medications and therapies. And after 20 years, which ended in 1987, out of those 112 people, more than a third of them had died. They died from RA. And the people that were left, 19% of them had severe disabilities from rheumatoid arthritis. It's not a very good outlook back then. But now, things are amazing. Now they have remission drugs that induce remission. Now they have biologicals. It's incredible. So I got the information at the library, left, went home. My husband had a computer. He had a mobile business, and he drove a big van, and he had a 28-pound portable computer, 28 pounds, that was this big suitcase, and the front of it flopped down, and that was the keyboard, and the screen was about 5x7 green CRT screen, archaic now. The crazy part was, new telephones today, a basic new telephone, comes with about 128 gigabytes of RAM. 128 gigabytes is equivalent to 128 million kilobytes. My husband's computer had 128 kilobytes. He ran his business program on that DOS program. Yeah, it's amazing. He had to back up his day at the end of each day on these little floppy disks. Well, they were 5-inch floppy disks, and you slip them in like a CD, and it would record all of his sales and his customers and inventory and whatever. So he just would pray every day that those little floppy disks weren't going to be failures, because he'd lose his whole day's worth of work and have to write everything in and retype it all. Yeah, that's what computers were like back then. His customers would step onto his van and look at the computer and go, "What's that?" That's how far back we were. That's how archaic things were back then. It's like dinosaurs were roaming the earth. Yeah. So we have such a better outlook with our health with RA now, even in the last 25 years, than it was 36 years ago. In 1988, I went to my doctor a few months into my care with him, and he was checking my fingers, squeeze, 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 and he shook his hand and kind of went, and he said, "You have very aggressive, severe rheumatoid arthritis." After that, he stopped and stared. My cue to ask questions. And I said, "Will it kill me?" His answer was pretty big shock. He said, "Unless something new comes out, probably in your 50s. In my 50s? I'm 66 now, by the way. Yeah, in my 50s. I had 2 little kids. They were 4 and 1. I didn't want to die. I had a good life. Well, not too much later that year, the Federal Drug Administration approved a cancer medication that was and still is used for cancer patients in a much, much stronger dosage than it is now for rheumatoid arthritis patients, but it was approved to be used for rheumatoid arthritis. And when I got that medication, it made a huge difference in my health. I felt better. I was not having so many flares. I still didn't have a remission, but I was better. This was 11 years into my rheumatoid arthritis life. So the doctor, he called me one day. It was 1998, so we're skipping forward a long ways. And he called me, and it was a weekend. Doctors don't call you at home on the weekend. They return a call if there's an emergency. And he was so excited and animated, unlike Dr. Normal Sheldon. And he said, "Miss Marty, I am so excited. I couldn't sleep last night. I went in my office and I've been reading up on some new medications that are coming out. They're called biologic. It's called a biologic. It was one new medication, the first one. And I think it can give you a new life." Whoa, a new life? I really would love that. He said that the responses to the patients that were trying them in the trials was miraculous. So I went in, I was first in line. I went in and I got that medication, and the response my body had was miraculous. It was incredible. Not everybody gets the same response, but I went home and I called him and I said, "Is this a placebo effect?" And he's like, "Some people get really instant results." Yeah, I felt great. I hopped out. I could undo my seatbelt. I hopped out of the car by myself. When I came around the back of the car, my husband was standing there dumbfounded because I did it without even thinking. He always had to help me. Yeah, so that's what that medication did for me. It changed my life. Now now the doctors co-therapy methotrexate with biologic medications. So, and now there are so many new biologics. There's more coming out every year. So if one doesn't work for you, another one may. And that's for your rheumatologist to help you find. So yay for that. So I have a pretty amazing backstory to that first biologic, and maybe I'll share it in another video. So here we are. We've come a long way. Are you still feeling unlucky? Are you still saying, "Why me?" Because, oh my gosh, things are so great now. You can smile and stand up straight, get those endorphins moving. They help you feel less pain and make you have a better outlook on life. So that's what I try to do every day. You can limp if your foot hurts, or you can not limp. It's going to hurt either way, but you won't think of it as much. Mm-hmm. That's my motto. That's how I go. I try not to show what's bothering me. I try not to share that with everybody because most people aren't interested, and it makes you feel worse to concentrate on it. Mm-hmm. So we're fortunate. The amazing medications. The hand surgeon I saw recently mentioned to me that he sees less and less RA patients with disabling hand deformities now than he did 25 years ago. And every year he sees even less. He goes, one day it's all going to be gone. He just fixes people that have had injuries. That's his thing. So he still has quite a few of us older people that need his help. But it's just amazing to hear from a hand surgeon. And he gave me that information out of the blue. I didn't ask him. He said, yeah, those biologics are amazing. Less and less people with debilitating hand deformities. Yeah. So that's another thing. And we have hope for remission with the new biologics. Well, they aren't new anymore. They've been around for quite a while. But you could go into remission. Remission means that it's like you're not sick. It's sitting there waiting. It could pop back up, but at least you get a little break. Yeah. So I just can't imagine what our lives are going to be like with RA in the future. Can you? Yeah. So I want to thank you for spending time with me today and listening to this video. I hope that you can share it with a friend or relative or someone else with rheumatoid arthritis that you think could benefit, or to learn something more about what you're going through. Give me a little thumbs up if you liked it, and please do subscribe. I'm trying to put a weekly video out, and that way you can get new information and learn more information about your disease. So stand tall, give me a smile, and don't let your disabilities define you.